I am Carl Langston. I was 41 and was married for 15 years when the following story took place. I am an electronics specialist. I do some installs, but I am mostly a troubleshooting and repair guy. I got lucky with some software I wrote and some gadgets I patented, so I am set for the money. But much too young to retire, I fell into this opportunity to buy the company that I was working at. I am a silent owner and have a CEO and CFO who are sworn to secrecy. So even my wife did not know about that. I had been the owner of the business for 8 years when I heard about a device that would allow your home computer to be your answering machine. As a troubleshooter, I had to test it, so I set it up at my house on my home phone. I found the device had a bug that actually worked to my advantage. I met Linda after I got out of the Army. I was a communications specialist and was injured in an attack while I was working with a communications team outside of Kirkuk in Iraq. Linda is a year and a little younger than I am. She is tall, and I swear it is almost all legs. She is also very beautiful, with an upside-down, teardrop-shaped face. She is of Polish, Ukrainian, and Miami Indian descent. She has the most beautiful blue-green eyes and high Indian-type cheeks. As I have described, she is an exotic knockout. She was 22 when I met her, fresh out of college and trying to get out on her own. I did not know it at the time I met her, but she was not only a virgin, but had only been on a couple of dates and had not had a serious boyfriend since her junior year at the local Catholic high school. We met at a recruiting seminar that was held locally. The company I was investigating was looking for the head of their communications department and had asked me to come back in 45 minutes to talk to their president as the position was considered one of management. I went to get something to eat at the food booth and Linda was in front of me. When she ordered, I could see that it was way more than she could carry, so I offered to help her if she would wait for my order. She did, and I carried the things back to the table she was sharing with 2 other young ladies. She thanked me and asked if I would join them. I agreed, and we sat and talked until I had to leave for my appointment. I got Linda's phone number and said I would call her that evening to find out how her job hunt went. And if you believe that, I have some oceanfront property in Montana to sell you. Job hunting was not on my mind. After talking to the man about his position, something seemed off about the job. The duties he described were more like industrial espionage than communications. I declined, and 3 months later that company imploded when they tried to sell some trade secrets from a Fortune 500 company in the aerospace industry. The man I talked to was convicted and spent some time in Club Fed. I found a different company later that day and was hired to just streamline and run their communications and networks. That evening I called Linda, and she was surprised and pleased I called because, as she said, a lot of the jerks that say they will call were put off by some signals I must be sending out. I said that the only signals that I saw were that she was not interested in a short-term relationship. I said that while I was not really smooth or accomplished, I was never after any short-term gigs. I asked how her job search went, and she said she had 3 good possibilities. I told her that I was hired by a company and would start in 3 weeks. I asked if she was free for coffee the next day, and she agreed. We met, and I told her about my upcoming job and how I had just sold a piece of software, as well as received patents for my gadgets. I was bragging some, but I was proud of my babies, as I called my accomplishments. I asked about her possibilities and found out that she had interviewed with the shady company, but did not get a negative vibe about them. She also interviewed at 2 local banks. One was for a trust officer to handle 2 charitable trusts, and the other was for a loan officer in their commercial loan department. She said she really wanted the trust position, and luckily she got it. We dated for a year, and I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. We were married a year later, but in between we ran into a few minor problems. I am a person who takes my word as a bond, and someone at the bank talked Linda into insisting on a prenuptial agreement. She had been told to protect herself in case of my adultery. I blew my stack. I screamed and ranted about her lack of trust and said in a very loud voice, "Fine, write your goddamned paper, but I will get my attorney to write one also, and we will decide between us whose is most fair." And I will not sign a prenup that allows you to have any of my business interests or income from my pre-marriage inventions or software products." She started crying, and I just left. A week later, I got a knock on my apartment door, and she was standing there and handed me an envelope and my engagement ring. The envelope contained the suggested prenup and a note that was short and very hard for me to read. It said, "Carl, I haven't told you everything about me. I have a trust fund that, while not huge, is a lot for me. I will receive it when I turn 25 or get married, whichever is first. The person I work with, Jack Sampson, is at the bank, and the one who suggested the prenup. He is also the administrator of my trust. I was told the prenup was to protect me. It is not a question of trust. I love you and want to marry you. I know in my heart you would not hurt me, but my mind says that I must protect myself. I am returning the engagement ring until you either sign the prenup, suggest one of your own for negotiation, or call me and tell me to eat shit and die. I again say to you I love you and find that this is making me very sad. Please decide quickly. Love with all my heart and soul. Linda." I put the note aside and looked at the prenup. While I did not understand all of the legalese, I could see it really did protect her. But if we were to get a divorce, I would take it in the back. I was furious. The next day, I called my lawyer and went to him with the prenup. I told him I wanted him to write 2 prenups up. I wanted the first one to be as one-sided as the one she gave me, and the other to protect both my premarital assets and her trust fund. I told him to be fair, but to include a death penalty for all post-nuptials joint assets if there is adultery on either side. I explained that I would show her the unfair one, and after she got done ranting, I would tell her I would sign the fair one. I got the papers about 3 days later and laughed at the unfair one. It just screamed, "I don't trust you, so you will be screwed if we divorce." I thought the fair one was okay, but I still did not like it. Because of the way Linda acted when she gave me the notes and papers, I thought turnabout was fair play. I wrote her this note. "Linda, I won't tell you to eat shit and die, but here is a prenup my lawyer wrote to protect me. I must tell you, it is as one-sided as the one you gave me. That one I used to start a fire in the backyard for a couple of the neighbors' boys who were camping out. Your words and actions show me how little you trust me, and so if you want to marry me, you need to sign my prenup. Let me know you want to negotiate a fair prenup, or eat shit and die. I love you and want to marry you, but I will not be mistrusted until I show you I can't be trusted. You can have the ring back easily. All you need to do is show you trust me. I do not like the prenup idea, but will sign a fair one. If I don't hear from you before I start my job, I will move on, otherwise the ring is still here when you want to claim it. I do love you, Carl." A couple of days later, I received a screaming phone call from Linda, and I just let her rant about what a selfish bastard I was. And I could go to hell before she would sign, that she said it was so bad she wouldn't wrap garbage in it. I started laughing and she started crying. I waited until she calmed down and said, "Now you know how I felt. If you want a prenup so damn bad, I have one you can give to your lawyer or advisor to look at, and we can use it as a start. Be very aware that your lack of trust caused me to insist on an adultery penalty for either side. Do we go on, or do I eat shit and die?" Linda started laughing and said, "You would probably ask for horseradish as a seasoning, you prick. If I didn't love you so much, I would come over there and kick your back. Send me a copy and we can see how it goes. I love you." And she hung the phone up. Her lawyer agreed with almost everything but added a clause for spousal maintenance of $10,000 a year for the non-requesting spouse. I agreed to that, and she got the ring back. We were married, and I switched jobs to head repairer and troubleshooter in the company until the purchase opportunity came up. That was after we had been married for about 6 years. I worked hard, and while I am not a great romantic nor a culture vulture, I bought flowers for her just because, and took her to concerts and plays. We also went dancing, and once or twice a year we went bar hopping. I found I liked alcohol way too much, and quit drinking. I still did all of the other stuff and didn't stop Linda from having a drink even at the house. On our vacations and long weekends, we took trips all over the country. Life seemed good, and Linda did not seem to complain, so I thought all was well. Our love life was pretty much an equal exploration. I had only been sexually active with 2 girls in high school, and they were in missionary or reverse cowgirl only. Linda was a virgin and was very sexually curious. We found some position books and used them in our explorations. She really loved intimacy under the stars and in a car. It was funny because I got a minivan and had it modified as soon as they came out. Somehow, we never managed to have children, and we did not talk about having them. As in all relationships, the intimacy slowed down as time went on, and we went from almost every night to 2 or 3 times a week. I was happy and had nothing to complain about until about 6 months before I heard the phone call. That was when Linda seemed to lose interest in intimacy of any kind. It took me a couple of months to realize that the only times we were making love was when I noted the time since the last time. Sometimes even then they were mercy intimacy, and Linda was like a dead fish. I had gotten this answering machine gadget and had a spare computer sitting around, so I hooked it up to test it. I found the bug about 6 weeks after installing it. After 5 or 6 calls in any 24-hour period, the device would start recording as soon as the phone was answered. Of course, this tended to suck up hard drive space, so about once a week I would print a list of the phone numbers and length of calls and delete the recordings to clear hard drive space. I had been doing this for about a month when I noticed a lot of 30 to 45-minute calls from 2 different numbers. One of the numbers was from Linda's sister, and the other was unknown. The calls were always from after Linda got home and before I did 90 minutes or so later. There were other calls from the same number, but if the phone wasn't answered, they hung up before they were asked to leave a message. I started saving those calls to a CD and kept them to listen to at a later time. After a particularly hard week, I took a 5-day weekend and started listening to these calls. Most of the ones to Linda's sister were just gossip and mundane stuff. The calls started to get more into their respective love lives about the time my love life went into the crapper. On one of the calls to Linda's sister, Linda admitted to fantasizing about taking a lover. That call was followed by more and more calls. Her sister would say that Linda was so lucky to have a man like me who was turned on by her. Linda said back, "I don't know. Carl has become so boring. We don't do any sexually exciting things anymore. I think now that Jack is starting to sniff around at work, I may see if teasing him will spice my life up." I was furious, but so far it was all fantasy. I listened to a few more, and about 4 weeks later more of the unknown number of calls started. I listened to the first one, and it seemed innocent. It was Jack, and he just wanted to confirm a luncheon with all of the trust officers. They also talked about other work topics. It wasn't until the next week that Jack called and dropped the bomb. He started out with more work stuff, and then said, "The trust officer luncheon was a bust, but you were sure a lot of fun afterward. I did not know you had a birthmark there." Now I was extremely angry because Linda has a birthmark on the inside of her left breast that can only be seen when her breasts are bare. Even the most immodest bikini covers it. Then the next time I got an opportunity for a mercy intimacy, I got a surprise because Linda wanted the lights out and did not want me to go down on her. Both of these were strange actions because the only time we had ever made love in the dark was when we were in the car or outdoors. And the only time Linda did not want me to eat her was when she was on period. I knew she wasn't on her period because it was the week before. I did not know what to think about the lights, so I just stopped and asked what was wrong. Linda said, "Nothing is wrong. I just want the lights out, and I'm not in the mood for oral." Well, by then I had lost my erection and my temper and said, "Jez Louise now, you're not only cutting down on frequency, you are cutting down on positions. No thank you, I'll sleep in my office. That way you can have the dark." I then went and got some bedding and pillows and slept on the day bed in the office. Linda got up with me in the morning with red swollen eyes and said she was sorry. I didn't let her off that easy. If you value our marriage, you need to understand something. Forsaking all others is not just some simple, flowery wedding thing. They are called vows, because they are just that. If you ever cheat on me in word or deed, our marriage is over. Linda's face got white as a sheet, and she ran crying from the room, and I heard the master bathroom door slam shut. I left for work. I stayed in the home office for several more weeks and kept listening to more and more suggestive phone calls until about 15 days later on one of the calls Jack said, "Your body feels so good, and when I'm with you it excites me. I hope you are still limiting that jerk when it comes to intimacy. Your body belongs to me. If he insists, just please take care of it." I found out the next night why she had wanted the lights out and no oral when I accidentally walked in on a naked Linda in the bathroom after I got home from work. She had shaved bare, something she said she would not do for me. She also had a big hickey on her breast and several on her thighs. She screamed and shouted at me to get out. I told her, "Get your back dressed and meet me at the kitchen table in 15 minutes or I will see a lawyer in the morning and it would not be to make a new will." I went to the office and got the prenup and put it on the kitchen table. 25 minutes Linda came down and started to say, "I can explain." "Not unless it is the truth and nothing else. And why does this prenup mean so little to you? Did you shave for Jack when for more than 10 years you would not for me? Did he complain more than I did about body hairs in my teeth? I never put a hickey on you anywhere because I didn't want to destroy the perfection of your body. Did Jack need to mark his territory?" By then I was screaming, "I suppose you can explain all that and at the same time explain how I'm so boring, as you told your sister. I won't be boring, and Jack can have you. I am moving out this weekend, and you can have all you are entitled to. Oh, wait, by the terms of the prenup you get nothing, so you have to move out. I will sleep in the office until the weekend, and if you haven't moved your clothes out by then, they will make a good bonfire." Linda fainted, and I walked around her and got some juice and a salad out of the fridge and sat at the table waiting for her to come around. When she came to, I was eating, and she looked at me and opened her mouth to speak, and all that came out was a squeak. She ran from the room to the master bedroom, and I heard the door lock. I finished eating, cleaned up, and went back to the bedroom. I knocked on the door, and when Linda did not open it, I got out a bent paperclip that I had stashed above the door just because one of the neighbor kids locked himself in the bathroom and panicked. I unlocked the door and started opening her side of the dresser. Linda asked what I was doing in there after she locked the door. I laughed at her and said, "It is my house now, and you are going to the guest room or out of the house. Her choice." I also said that she would need to take a cab if she left because I was canceling the lease on her car. Linda asked why I was being such a bastard. I looked at her and said, "Just look in the mirror at the marks on your body and remember our discussion about trust and the fight over the prenup. I heard your buddy praising the feeling of entering the back door. You never let me do that, you stupid woman." I waited for a second to see if she had a comeback. After closing her mouth, she sighed and slowly walked out of the bedroom, and I heard the guest room door close. Linda left for work the next morning, and I called my office and told them that I had some important personal problems that I had to take care of and that I would not be in for the rest of the week. I then called a private investigator that our company used for periodic employee checks and internal investigations. They said they had a division that did that work but wanted to know how serious I was about what I wanted. I said what I really wanted was for my wife to not be cheating, but she is, so go do everything legal that you can to prove it. I told him I had several hours of phone conversations between the lovers, but he did not know he was being recorded, so I didn't think I could use them. My next call was to my lawyer, and he said he would start the paperwork and have her served when I gave the word. I asked if he thought that the bank might have a non-fraternization policy. He thought they would. Then I told him that the man she was cheating with also controlled her trust fund. He just about jumped for joy at hearing that, as that was a big breach of fiduciary responsibility. I also thought that I had met his wife at one of the few bank-sponsored events that we went to. He said that I had made him a richer man today, and we closed our call. I then called the security company that runs the alarm system and entry security to all of the doors and windows in the house. They said that if I gave them a new security code, they would enter it, and all the locks would change immediately. I did, and they did. Now all I had to do was call Linda and tell her that she was not to come into the house without ringing the doorbell. I did, and she went nuts. "Too bad, so sad," I said, and hung up. Next, I called the bank and informed them that I wanted all of the accounts closed, as I would be transferring them to another bank. The person I talked to asked me to hold for a minute, as the amounts were such that she was not authorized to do that. Next, an officious jerk came on and demanded to know why I wanted to close out the accounts. I told him that it was none of his business why, and then I said, "I just have a wild hair up my back and decided to move my accounts to a more reputable bank." That sort of shut him up for a second or two, and he said that the accounts would be closed and I could sign the paperwork and pick up the check that afternoon. I thanked him and set an appointment for 1:30 p.m. I called my broker and had Linda removed from all of my accounts and asked that I be removed from all of hers. I called the lawyer back and asked if there was a way to sue any and all parties at the bank and destroy this Jack person. He said it was in the works. I then told him about the recordings, and he agreed that we could not use them in court, but if we get countersued, then they would be bargaining material. I called the leasing company and asked what the buyout was for Linda's car. When I found out how little it was, I bought it. I may be angry, but I decided that maybe a little compassion would soothe some of her anger. Linda moved in with her sister that weekend, and when her sister tried to give me a load of nonsense about what I was doing, I ripped Linda's blouse up and showed her the hickey. I said there are more on the inside of her legs, and I haven't had intimacy with her in almost a month. That stopped that in a big hurry. The private investigator came back with all of the information I needed. It also showed that the lovers were charging their lunch trysts to the bank as business meetings. I paid the bill and sent a copy of the reports to my lawyer. I told the lawyer to serve any and all interested parties during the next business day about 2 in the afternoon. I made it a point to set up an appointment with my trust officer for that time. His office was right next to Linda's and between hers and Jack's. I was in my trust officer's office waiting area because he was running behind. That suited me just fine. I saw 2 young people come in accompanied by a sheriff's deputy. They each had large manila envelopes in their hands. The first office they went into was down the hall a little way, and I assumed it was the supervising trust officer's office. There was not much of a response to that, but the next office was Jack's. He yelled, "He can't do that!" Then he ran from his office to go see Linda. He saw me sitting there and gave a screech and ran up and punched me. I wasn't ready, and the punch was powerful and it knocked me out for a couple of seconds. When I came to, Jack was in handcuffs, and the deputy was looking at me to see if I was okay. He asked what I did to annoy the guy off so much that he would attack me. I told him to ask the lady in the next office they were going to. I then told him to charge Jack with whatever was correct, and I would sign the complaint. I then called my lawyer and gave him the update. He giggled like a schoolgirl and said, "Thanks for the yacht. Now it won't matter if the bank has a policy or not. An officer of the bank attacked a customer on bank property during business hours. How do you feel about owning a branch or 10 of that bank?" I half laughed and said, "The fireworks are over. Now the waterworks will start. They are going into Linda's office as we speak. Send me the bill when all is said and done." He came back with, "Hell, by the time we're done, one of the provisions I will insist on is the bank pay my bill. I'll let you go, but keep me informed." Then he hung up. Linda did not scream or yell, and I didn't hear any crying, so maybe she was expecting it. When I got home, I had several calls on the new answering machine, and my cell phone had several voicemails from Linda. The answering machine calls were from people at the bank asking to talk about the lawsuits. I deleted the voicemails. I then called Linda's sister and asked her to let Linda know that I would not talk to her unless it was in my lawyer's office. I did get an interesting call from my private investigator. It seems that the state's attorney general's office has begun an investigation into Jack's possible looting of several trust funds. One of them was Linda's. He said the schmuck was seducing her to keep her in the dark. Jack has been arrested on grand theft and embezzlement charges as well as breach of trust charges. Linda's trust was almost empty. When she found out, she sued the bank. Between the two of us and our lawyers, we got high 7 figures each from the bank, and Linda's trust was restored. She wanted reconciliation, but I just handed her a jar of horseradish. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.